Hey guys, this is Nick Stewart, and I am really excited to be joined by my friends, who I'll let introduce themselves, for a discussion about what's going on in Baltimore County when it comes to affordability and when it comes to revitalization and what it takes for that work to get off the ground and start making an impact. Because oftentimes in government, we talk about things in 10 and 20-year time horizons, but there is a fierce urgency to now, as we know. And so this is that conversation about what it looks like for those who are doing the work in Baltimore County to make it better. So thank you guys for being here, for having us join you for a conversation.
Sure, my pleasure.
Chrissy, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Chrissy Erb. I'm the executive director of the Essex Community Development Corporation. Our mission is to build a strong, vibrant, economically viable Essex, and we do that through business support, community engagement, and placemaking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can tell people what a CDC is.
Sure. So a CDC can take a lot of different forms. In a lot of cases, it deals with housing and business support. In our case, we were born out of the Chesapeake Gateway Chamber of Commerce. And so our focus is very much on the main commercial district here. We are focusing on business support primarily, but we recognize that the businesses need to be supported by the community. And frankly, a lot of the businesses are the community, in the sense that we have several, folks who have been born and raised in Essex who are choosing to grow their businesses here. And so we're doing a lot of work to bring in money to support businesses. We are creating opportunities for community engagement. It's not rocket science, but it does take someone or an entity to take, to take a leap of faith and put those events on and bring people together. Exactly. And so for me, it really starts with the people. You've got to get the people who are here, who have had all of their different experiences, good, bad, and whatnot, bring them together and start to help people understand that we are humans, that we all have personalities, we all have challenges, we all have vulnerabilities. And so for me, that's really where the revitalization piece starts, and where us as a CDC, as a community development corporation, really kind of sets our foundation.
So, thank you. Mm-hmm. Bill, could you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Bill Wells. I'm the Executive Director and CEO of the Community Assistance Network, and we are a community action agency. We trace our origin back 60 years to the War on Poverty and are one of 17 community action agencies in Maryland. So we cover community action for all of Baltimore County, and we do that through a variety of different programs. Our sort of tagline is, helping people and changing lives. At the base of community action, we're here to try and alleviate poverty, but we're here to do it in a way that fits the community that we're a part of. So our approach may be different than the approach in Baltimore City or Howard County or Anne Arundel County. Right. And Essex is one of the areas that's close to our main office in Dundalk, but it's also one of the areas that we serve a lot. One of our community outreach offices is located here in Essex.
Right, which makes sense, because this is, if you look at a heat map of poverty in Baltimore County, you find significant concentrations of poverty in Dundalk, in Essex, in Cockeysville, and then in the northwest side to some extent.
Yes.
Is that right?
And that follows where our community outreach staff have offices in the community. Right. We obviously would like to also expand and do more on that southwest side, down towards Lansdowne and below. Yes, sure. and below Arbutus. But right now our footprint in terms of where we've got folks stops at about the Arbutus area, other than our homeless street outreach teams, which operate throughout the entirety of Baltimore County.
Right. So just to set the stage a little bit, the truth is, in Baltimore County, we don't appreciate this as much, but we actually have a fair number of folks who are struggling with affordability, but also with poverty. And this is, based on the latest numbers, my understanding is about 44% of our households live in poverty, but it's about 74% of our children who are in Baltimore County public schools are living in poverty, with 50% of our children living in extreme poverty, which is 130% of the federal poverty line or less, about $45,000, I believe, for a family of four. And so that leads to an enormous conversation about how to meet the needs of the whole child, how to meet the needs of the whole family, and allow them to have building blocks of success for other opportunities in our county or in this region at large. So as you approach the magnitude of that challenge, how do you break that down? How do you sort of approach it?
Well, community action is required by our enabling legislation to go through a periodic community needs assessment and strategic planning process, so that as our communities change, our programs are informed by how that change is happening. Right now, and CAN over 60 years has had not only different names, but a variety of different services. Used to do Head Start and weatherization and other programs. Now we focus on housing, homeless street outreach, community outreach, and our food pantry and food services, as well as operating the Men's West Side homeless shelter for Baltimore County DSS.
And so what have you seen over the last few years as far as need is concerned? And I think we've all heard this buzzword about affordability. The price of housing certainly it's never been more expensive to buy a home in Baltimore County based on income. And there are some real challenges now that seem to have reached a tipping point.
Well, I'll give two examples. We serve about 1,700 households in the Essex area at our community choice pantry in Dundalk. So those are families that are coming once a month to get supplemental food assistance, basically to go shopping in our food pantry as neighbors. That is much larger than the previous year. And the second example is what happened in the last quarter of 2025. The federal government was shut down. SNAP benefits were in jeopardy, but also it wasn't clear how that was going to work in November and December. And we saw federal workers being furloughed. We already serve folks up to 200 times the federal poverty level, but we saw increases in October, November, December. These were folks who were SNAP eligible, were working.
Right. What is 200% for those who are watching, if you recall?
I do not recall.
That's okay. That's okay. It's still shockingly low.
Yeah. It is. I mean, you gave the figure for 130.
And poverty being classified by the school system, at least when it talks about it, about like 80,000 or so or less.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really in Baltimore County, the studies have shown that and this is sort of an Alice consideration too, but that you need to make about 120,000 or above in order to be able to live without great or undue hardship.
Yeah. So that underscores that hardship. What are the choices that families are making on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis about what can I afford to do this month? What can I put off till next month? So and in that example, we had SNAP eligible households who were getting benefits through SNAP, through other programs, also now signing up or coming in again for supplemental food assistance through our Choice Neighborhood Pantry. If I hold back on spending money on food because there are other resources, then I can put that money toward things that my kids need, medical expenses, housing, that sort of thing.
Right.
We've seen dramatic increases in housing prices and on the rental as well as the sales market, and none of that, and food as a commodity, none of that has been matched with increases in jobs or income.
Right. And in fact, in Baltimore County, incomes have fallen for 5 years in a row in our county. So that need is becoming pretty great.
So we see that through our programs, and we have folks who successfully use these programs to sort of re-entrench and figure out, how do I get more stable? Yeah. How do I move my family forward? Is it job development? Is it having access to funds that help me put money in places that will get my family further, rather than just holding on to where I am. And we see families move out of needing that assistance. However, we see dramatically more households coming in looking for new assistance.
Yeah. What do you see, Chrissy, as being some of the greatest opportunity for an organization like yours to help communities like Essex, which I think has enormous history, certainly, but enormous charm and still a small town legacy to build upon, to kind of actualize its potential in this environment?
Yeah. I think access is a really big piece of things. You know, there are resources that exist for families. I'm not saying that all the resources are what they need to be, and I'm talking about businesses in particular, okay? So thinking about, you know, businesses that have existed on Eastern Boulevard for a long time, and they haven't put any money into their businesses, they haven't upgraded their buildings. I mean, we see property owners who've sat on properties for years because they were told to invest in properties, but then they didn't actually keep them up in certain ways. So now they're looking to get out, and businesses are coming in, and there's no resources for those business owners who, you know, to make changes to the spaces and all of that. So one of the things that we do as Essex CDC is provide access to those resources, because they do, some of them do exist. So being able to connect and educate people about resources at the county level, at the state level in particular. We are situated on a commercial revitalization district designated as a place that needs support, and therefore we have access to some more resources.
So that district designation provides additional resources.
Correct. So not every area has, well, a lot of it, anyway, not every urban area is a commercial revitalization district. It might be seen as a commercial district, but and so you can get access to funding through the Department of Planning for community revitalization assistance grants that support things like, you know, the way that we utilize them is by having events that bring businesses and community members together. You know, so on our asphalt out here on the parking lot, we have Second Fridays in the summertime, and people can come out and get very inexpensive food that ties to our connection to the waterfront. It may sound glitzy and glamorous, but you know, crabs and oysters are things that people, you know, they may be expensive now, but you grew up with them. And so to be able to have a $2 crab here on a Friday night, or a $1 oyster, and come out and enjoy a sense of community, and then have the Baltimore County Public Library here, have Community Assistance Network here, have other resources here that can help people, families understand what they can access is helpful, and then also get them connected to the businesses that are already here. This is their community, and we want people to stay. We don't want this brain drain to happen. We don't want them to go through school and high school and then go off to college and leave. And that is happening.
Or not come back when they're done with school.
Correct. So to make sure, you know, to figure out ways that help people stay connected to the community and feel like there's really a sense of belonging here. So I think that's a big piece of it.
Bill, how important is the building of that ecosystem to helping to solve for baseline levels of poverty and creating opportunity then for people to not have to move away, but actually, you know, maybe go deeper into their community?
Sure. If you can have those resources available to a community that will help people stay there, and not just stay there for a few years, as you were saying, and as Chrissy was saying, you know, get through school and then go and do something else, and then maybe that smaller household find someplace else to live. If we can help those households, those families find stability now, then they're going to be here longer. You know, if you have choices about where you're going to go, some people are going to exercise choices that take them farther away. And some people are going to say, you know what, this is my community, and I like my community. There's a reason I live here, and I choose to make my community better.
Opportunity for me and my family that actually exists here.
Right.
And we do that in collaboration. I say we, it's a larger we. It's not just CAN, it's not just Essex CDC, but all of these organizations that have a piece of that puzzle can work together to solve for their area, right? What they're really good at, and then the other partners fill in those areas that they don't.
Yeah.
Right. So things that we're not going to do, we don't do direct employment. But we can help you with job development, and that's really a connection to job development, educational attainment that we can connect you with other partners, such that you can be more secure. And I think for us it comes back to we talk about being an anti-poverty agency, organization, and it really comes back to thinking about that in terms of stability. It doesn't matter if your income is lower or higher. At the end of the day, if you are stable, if you have what you need to live in a safe and healthy home, if you have enough to eat, and if you have opportunities that you can provide for your
job
children.
Opportunities, transit opportunities.
Absolutely.
All of those.
Groceries,
Amenities.
and
And we just lost Shoppers, which is unfortunate. We do have Gershbeck's, we do have Food Lion, but in the Middlesex Shopping Center, we just lost Shoppers, and they're looking at the real possibility of getting another grocer in, but it's going to be a smaller grocer. And that provides, it's already a challenge for people who live in other parts of Essex that aren't connected to Eastern Boulevard to get up here to shop at a place like Shoppers, and now it's even that much more challenging. So
absolutely.
yeah.
What does it look like? I have my own ideas here, which we put out a lot of ideas.
You're good.
But this idea around coordination and who leads that effort. And we talked about having a small area plan, which we did in this area. There was some good, there was some bad. But we talk about the role then being played by like an Essex Reimagined initiative by the county government to come in and try to help people collaborate and see a broader picture of all the pieces that need to move together in order to, again, unlock the fullest potential of these efforts as put together, where 1 + 1 doesn't just equal 2, but can equal 3 or 4. So who do you see as being the collaborative force here?
Yeah, I think this is a really tough question because in Essex, and it happens in other communities too. It's a large community as far as Baltimore County is concerned, but it's a small community. In that Essex CDC exists, there are a few nonprofit organizations that exist to support environmental issues, Maryland Waterways Foundation, Back River Restoration. We've got other nonprofits like Community Assistance Network. We have school leaders. We are very lucky, in my opinion, to have community schools here in Essex, where they have been working tremendously over the past 5 years now to provide resources for families. Church leaders. So, even leaders of different staff members from the county government, the planning department, economic and workforce development. I view Essex CDC as a convener for those groups in different aspects. To bring people together to talk about what the challenges are and see where we can get connected, where it makes sense for Essex CDC to take the lead, where it makes sense for CAN to take the lead, so on and so forth. But it is a big challenge when people come from different walks of life. They come from different periods of time, having been spent in Essex, different understanding, different communities. Essex is a melting pot. I mean, like every community, but there are so many different pockets of people that exist. And so that's why I think our community engagement activities are so important, because it provides the opportunity for everybody to just come together. But as far as leading that, it is a challenge because we all have our own work to do, so to speak. But as you said, when we bring it together, it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 equals exponential possibilities.
And I think those different challenges that you're convening groups to get at the heart of, and to really dig in and find solutions for. Each one is going to be tethered to a different way of doing that. So if you're trying to bring in community schools, because you've got 2 community schools that serve this area, what goes along with that? If you're looking at the business part, and you talked about shoppers, and that's huge to have 1/3 of the retail grocery outlets gone.
Yeah.
Well, if you're solving for that, it's a different group of people that you're bringing together. I think that the one thing that is important is to make sure that there's community leadership in those solutions.
Ensuring that the community themselves are the ones solving their own problems.
Not, and no offense.
No, you're fine.
Essex CDC or CAN speaking on behalf of a community, but digging in to do the work to help elevate the voices of that community.
I often view it as government or organizations trying to give the right tool set to the community.
Absolutely.
And empower them to really take on the leadership role.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've run into this on my time on the Southwest CDC, but also in some respects with the We the People organization we formed to talk about housing revitalization. But it's engaging a community that themselves don't inherently believe it's worth the time or the effort.
Yes.
And that when they have done this in the past, it hasn't necessarily transformed their lives or materially improved the community. And so how to try to bring them into, once again, a problem-solving work stream that will pay off. And that's a trust exercise. I think.
Absolutely.
It is, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And learning not to come in as the holder of the solution that is going to work for them. Start out before that, because if that's where you're engaging community, you've in a sense already lost the community engagement, right? You're bringing them a solution rather than engaging them in even an understanding of what you may think the problem is. Some of your residents may say, that's not a problem at all. Well, that's valuable information to have. But if you don't start out building that trust and building that conversation, you'll never get to a solution that actually works for that community.
Are we still able to move with rapidity and urgency even as we do that work?
It depends. I'm at heart a pragmatist. It depends on what you're trying to do. We sat down with Baltimore County Public Library to talk about initiatives around food. We recognize that just across the bridge from Essex, we have a fantastic community choice pantry. Can you get there? If you live in Dundalk, if you live in Essex, well, we try and make resources available broadly, but we looked and we said, we've got people on the west side of Baltimore County who haven't been here in 2 years. So what other solutions exist? We could take a long time to figure out exactly the right solution and test it and do all that sort of thing. And then we would look for funding to try and build it up. We found that the county libraries wanted to build food access somehow into their renovation and rebuilding of libraries. So Woodlawn, for example, where we also have a community outreach location, where we were trying to do community food registration and pickup. So you didn't have to come, you could still shop our inventory, but we would bring it to you. We found that they were much better in terms of engaging the community because folks were going there for other things. The library was a trusted partner in the community. And so we said, okay, well, we can provide you with freezers, refrigerators, everything you need to have a licensed area to hold food for folks to pick up, but you have to help us by bringing them in.
I know I see, and I've heard this about our library system, and as compared to others in Howard County, for example, I think they really view it as the front door to government. That instead of it just being a book warehouse, this is their opportunity to bring people the panoply of services that they might need, or at least the entryway into those services.
Yeah.
And if you talk to librarians, they're and I can say this because I'm married to one. It's not about just holding on to old dusty books,
Yeah.
right? It's about being that gateway to knowledge and information and understanding. And once you start thinking more expansively about that, then you can say, oh yeah, you can come in, you can do job searching, you can do housing searching, you can do all sorts of things that we're not equipped to provide for you, but as the library, we're equipped to help you get information.
That's exactly.
And
Yeah.
make those
Yeah.
connections.
That's
right. Yeah.
So, long story short, we wouldn't have been able to stand up an operation like that in Woodlawn, in Randallstown. But the library can and wanted to.
Yes.
They didn't have the partner on the other side to provide the infrastructure for it. Said, we do.
Yeah.
So this
Great
is going to be an
coordination.
ongoing, and we hope Essex will also be a part of that
Yeah.
in building in that kind of access. And again, not all communities are going to need the same thing.
Yeah.
But if you can figure out what this community, and that was what I was thinking of when you asked, can we do this quickly? I think the more local you are, right? The smaller that geographic circle is, and the more specific the thing is that you're trying to do, the more quickly you can get it done.
Yeah. Look, I think that's fair. And my hope and belief is that we can make this iterative to some extent. I want community engagement, but in the meantime, people have needs, and we need to try to meet them as best we can in this moment, and to think creatively and iteratively, I think, along the way to do so. What is your vision? What does it mean to you to have a fully revitalized Essex? What does that look like? Not that the work will ever be complete, I'm not
No.
saying that, but
No.
let's talk about, for folks, if we can really break it down, what revitalization can and should mean for a community like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've already talked about this in different ways, but it means it's a place that people can call home, that they want to come back to, that they feel a sense of pride in, they feel a sense of connection to. And I actually have a visual in my mind of just what that looks like as it relates to Eastern Boulevard,
You talked about that a
and
little
it looks like a thriving commercial district where there are retail shops. It's not just services. It's not just, which we have right now, insurance and tax preparation and beauty supply shops and hair care and all of that. It is also a maker space where artists can come together and sell their wares. It is a bakery where Sharon Pinkerton, who owns Pinky Sweet Treats, it's a cottage business in Hawthorne where she can actually have a space where she can do her cake decorating classes and sell her goodies. They're good. It's a place where we have several coffee shops, not just one. Thank goodness for the one. And where people can have different experiences and gather in different places. With Essex, it's a place where everyone, regardless of where they live in Essex, has an understanding of its history and its connection to the waterfront. We are unique in Baltimore County in that regard, and we have children who live blocks away from the water who have zero access to the water. And that's a part of their childhood. That's a part of the history of this place. So for me, it's being able to walk along the street on a Friday night and see people enjoying lots of different types of food, from local folks who started in their homes, who perhaps came here from other countries, or perhaps they've lived here their whole lives. And they've started their livelihoods at home, and we have been able to support them with support from other organizations like CCBC and other places to get them to where they need to be so they can then activate a storefront. And that it is a lively place where when cars drive through, they want to slow down and pull over and get out and see what's going on.
I think
so,
that's, for me, I think that's exactly it. It's about bringing back the slowness of community and creating experience now. We talked that after World War II, we made everything about cars, and then we built out these mega mall areas, again, surrounded by asphalt. and then the big box stores took over, and then Amazon and others took over them. Now we're back.
Yep.
Now it's what will it take for someone to be encouraged to come spend several hours of their afternoon grabbing a coffee, bringing their dog, walking with friends, having a pocket park,
Yep.
and experiencing local artisans, local shops. And this is what I think we're talking about when we talk about revitalization ultimately. And it's also important to remember, we're not talking about changing the underlying heritage or culture of the community. It's about enhancing what was there all along.
And celebrating it and helping people understand that connection.
Yeah.
Because we are moving forward. We can't go back, but we can take the elements of the past and honor them and make sure that, we are moving forward, keeping all of that in mind as well. So, yeah.
Bill, I have a different question for you.
Sure.
I think about, in some parts, when I think about poverty, and I think about the obligation that we all have, really, as part of the human experience, and certainly all of us having decency and dignity in each person in Baltimore County. The fact that this is our obligation, we should be stepping up and helping. So what is it that folks can do on a practical basis in Baltimore County to help with the fight against poverty in Baltimore County?
That's an excellent question. And the answer is going to be as different as the person. Who, if I could, have that sort of call to action for any one person, what they then did with it might be different. I think at the base of it, there's something that you said about, recognizing that human dignity in every person. I think we need to start there because I don't think that there's necessarily a common understanding of that. While we serve folks who are housed, we also serve folks who are living on the street. And that's a much different reality. And sometimes all it takes to make the difference in somebody's life is just recognizing them as another human being and caring enough to interact with them about what might make their day better. Right. As an organization, I would like to be able to then intervene and do something substantively to make that person's day better. And the next day, and the next day. Essex and other areas that are revitalizing, although I think there's a lot that's already vital about Essex. So I sort of trip over that word sometimes when talking about Essex and other areas. But these are areas that can't grow out of the issues of poverty. Vital areas, vital neighborhoods and communities will have a range of incomes, experiences, backgrounds. And that's going to include people who are lower on that economic scale than other folks.
So living together.
But living together, respecting the dignity of each person, regardless of their economic status, and finding ways, if you're at the top of that economic ladder, you're not really looking around to figure out how can somebody help me do more.
Yeah.
But if you're at the bottom, you're depending on other folks to give you that sort of lifeline, that step to get to somewhere where you can find that stability, you can start doing that growing for yourself.
An equal opportunity.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Bill, is you end up answering the question as well that was posed. I mean, this is what the full vibrancy of community can
absolutely.
be.
And I really don't think it's two different questions. It's not about what do we do so that everybody reaches a certain, income level. Yeah. We need to be clear-eyed enough to know that we're going to have diverse communities. Yeah. And there's a strength in that. Yeah. If you mentioned 3 coffee shops.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. I don't particularly like the way so-and-so makes coffee, but I've got another option.
Right.
My neighbor, real coffee snob, loves the way so-and-so makes coffee. So they're going to go there. Everybody carves out their own niche, has their own clientele.
Choices,
and their choices.
To us, about the Enough initiative, I don't think enough people understand it and its import and how important for us as a state to be able to say we are going to tackle poverty. We're going to tackle childhood poverty specifically.
So this is ambitious. So the only reason that this initiative exists is because Governor Moore said, I want to do this.
Yes.
And he looked around to see, okay, well, what have other places done to focus on this? And the reason that there are lots of places who aren't familiar with the Enough Act or the Enough Initiative is because there are only 27 across the state of Maryland.
Wow.
So it wasn't enough to have childhood poverty. It wasn't enough to have community schools or the infrastructure to bring the community together. What the state of Maryland and the Governor's Office of Children said was, well, you need to look at that like a matrix. Where do those things line up together? Right. And then have communities compete in terms of readiness for starting that process. The Essex Enough Initiative started out at the very beginning. And last year in 2025, we got a phase 1 grant. CAN got a grant as the quarterback for that community, working with Sandalwood and Deep Creek and Essex CDC, the LMB, the local management board for the county. And the only thing we needed to focus on that first year, was figuring out, well, who are the stakeholders? Right. This is not that quick solution that you were talking about.
It is not. But this is
However,
beginning of
overlapping interests.
correct.
It looks at it the other way. What do we lose if we move too fast? Well, we don't have data to back up what we're doing. Yeah. We don't have any sort of rigor about why are we making these decisions. Yes. I was talking to some folks from the school earlier this week, and I was saying we could all take a napkin and jot down our ideas about, what do we need to do? And we would have had some overlap, and that would have been great. We would have felt really good because we really know things about moving forward with a plan. And the Enough Act said, no, start from start. Figure out who your community is, engage your community, start gathering those resources, then apply for the next phase, which is figuring out, now that you've defined your community, what does your community need? And that's not even the end, because then you go on to where you will implement what you found out.
And then best hold yourselves accountable to executing on that plan.
If you have done those parts correctly, and I think it's vital that the Governor's Office of Children is reviewing the application. So we applied as community quarterback for phase 2, starting in 2026. We found out at the end of January that we were funded for that. So we're just starting to ramp up that work for phase 2.
Fantastic.
Get those core partners who we've identified, pull in the community and say, okay, here is the roadmap for how we're going to develop an inventory. What do we have? What do we not have?
Right.
And ultimately, the goal of the Enough Act is how do we target childhood poverty so that as children grow up, they grow out of poverty, they have the resources that they need so that they will not then go on to have children who are in poverty. Yeah. So it's not a tomorrow solution. No. It really is more of a generational. Along the way, we're going to be providing interventions and supports that are going to have immediate impacts on those families. But it really does look ahead a generation away to say that's going to be the hallmark of having succeeded, because we will break this sort of intergenerational cycle of poverty.
Which requires a lot of intentionality and thoughtfulness.
Yes.
But it also required the governor, to his credit, to put a flag in the ground and say, we are going to care about this. And we're going to center our resources around this.
So how do we do more of that?
Yeah. And how does the county play?
So absent a mandate, absent Governor Moore saying, we will do this, here's a framework, and more importantly, here's dedicated funding to get it done. Sure. It would not be happening, not in this way.
Yes.
Individual communities would always be struggling with these issues and trying to take steps forward. We wouldn't have the support of the LMB, the Governor's Office of Children, the ability to go to partners in the community, but also partners at the county level or at the state level, and say, we are an enough community. We need rental assistance for community schools, families. Okay, we will give additional points to an application for providing rental assistance if you are in an enough community. So there are all sorts of resources along the way that are now recognizing, oh, an enough initiative is providing the foundation to make sure that our grant is going to impact the community the way we want it to.
Yes, right. Bill and Chrissy, thank you for taking time to share your expertise, your perspective, your experience with us about what it really will take for Baltimore County and for our special communities that are within our county to prosper. Because I think what is happening here is very special, but we have lots of opportunity across our county to do it well. And so the fact that you are helping to show us what that looks like and bringing us into that effort too is really, really critical. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And we will put information in our links about how to learn more and how to get involved in this critical work.